All right, our game this week. This is interesting because we got a flex, the first ever Thursday night football flex. You are a very lucky man, get to stay in LA. I'm sure you'll be jingling the keys at halftime.
Thank you, Roger.
But we have the Broncos and the Chargers, and this one has some real playoff implications. What do you think about the Chargers right now? What's their playoff situation?
Well, I think when you look at their team, I don't know that there's somebody who's wowed me all year. I think they've tried to have the mentality and physicality change of their football team. We remember last year, we unfortunately were there. Brandon Staley's last game. That was ugly.
Yeah, I picked the Chargers to win that one. Yep, I picked the Chargers to win.
I think we both did, actually. But we were there for that. But what has been clear, and I think is a win, no matter how the season finishes out for them, I don't see them as a Super Bowl contender. But I do say it is very clear the mentality, the attitude of this team has completely changed.
Yep.
Their identity has changed. Yep. And that, to me, is a win in itself in the first year, the job that Jim Harbaugh's done. But to me, right now, they've put themselves in a tough situation. You got to make sure you take care of the rest of the season. Raiders and Patriots, you got to win both games, because if not, the Colts have the easiest schedule to finish in the NFL left to play. So they play Tennessee, in New York against the Giants, and Jacksonville. Like, they could win all three of those games without question. So for the Chargers, you have to win two of the last three to win out to be able to get in the playoffs. So they're in a tough situation. I don't think they're going to do anything other than make the playoffs, but I do think you could be really proud of how they've changed this year. They've even had some moments of taking out the chargering. You think back to the Bengals game. Like, man, the Bengals come all the way back. You're sitting there going, oh, no, here's this chargering moment again. This narrative's never going to die. And they find a way to win. So they've had some moments this year, which I think really you got to be really proud of to have accomplished. But I don't see them as anything more than a opening round of the playoffs type team.
Yeah. The Colts, I wouldn't hold my breath, even though they have the easy schedule to win all three of those games. It's just been a really frustrating, disappointing season. Justin Herbert, I'm going to do a deep dive this week on the film, because he's so confusing to me. I think everybody has anointed him already because he looks the part. He's a beautiful man. He gets his hair cut at Sports Clips and still looks great. He's only thrown 2 picks this year, and that's the narrative. Oh, he doesn't make mistakes, but he plays super conservative and careful. You know, we're looking at Josh Allen, Lamar, Burrow, Baker, Hurts, Jared Goff. They all have 30-plus touchdowns, and some of those guys approaching 40 this year. And Herbert, in 14 games, has accounted for 18 touchdowns. And so, great, we're limiting the mistakes. Yes, he doesn't have the weapons that some of these guys do. Yes, it's a different offensive style, but you sit there and the sacks always pile up on him. When they get behind in games, I don't feel like he's the kind of guy that's going to bring them back, and hasn't showed it a ton this year. And then the other frustrating thing about Justin for me is he's so athletic. The most yards he's rushed for in a season is 302 on 63 carries.
Wow.
In my second season, Andrew,
Ooh.
As a pudgy quarterback from the Ivy League that couldn't grow a beard yet and ran a 4.88 at the combine, I ran for 304 yards on 60 carries. So all I'm saying...
I can attest to your scramble ability, Fitz, because I will say my all-time favorite Fitz story is the preseason game in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's coming. And I think we had Marvin Lewis had told the starting offensive line, hey, guys, you guys are out of the game after the first drive. If we have 3 plays or we have 80, you guys are done. And we went on an 8.5-minute 13 or 14 play drive. That who was the real reason we were moving it? Well, none. We had no first down, second down success, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, this young QB, kept running for first downs on every 3rd and long, 3rd and 4, 3rd and whatever. And Willie Anderson, I'll never forget being like, dude, just get your ass on the ground. Like, we are trying to go suck water. It's preseason game 4. We want to go eat hot dogs, take our pads off, and you're freaking treating this like it's the Super Bowl, damn it.
I was fighting for my career at that point, Andrew, okay?
I mean, we were about to kill you if you didn't get on the ground.
But that's, my whole thing is we've anointed him, but he doesn't seem to be in the category with those guys. I don't think you can question his toughness. I think there still are questions maybe about his leadership ability, but I want to take a deeper dive into the film because statistically, the things that he's done in his first 5 seasons are some things that have not been done by many quarterbacks ever in the history of the National Football League. I just want to see him in that category with those guys. He's being paid in that category now. He certainly looks the part. It just seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect somewhere with Justin Herbert.
I agree. We've talked about this a little bit, and I know you're a big proponent of guys that, especially at the quarterback position, are a little more aggressive at times. Like I seem to can tell you don't like some of these guys that live in this world of being conservative and protecting their numbers. And, obviously when you're taking a high number of sacks, that means you're also not throwing a lot of balls that you could get out of your hand.
You know what? But it doesn't count against your quarterback rating. It doesn't count against your quarterback rating.
They know that too. Come on. So, but to me, it's that. And when you look at the other side in this game, coming up this week with the Broncos, they're in a situation where, they got to close the season out well. But you look at Bo Nix. I can remember from us having him, in New Orleans with the Saints game. Obviously Sean Payton's return home, and man, in that game he looked so skittish and just nervous and those things. And you kept talking about man, I've heard all these things about him in this relationship and how much he's growing, and I didn't see it tonight. But then since then, the guy's been on fire. He's really played well. But yes, is he still making boneheaded mistakes? Sure. But I think the thing I even go back to the Cleveland game, where their first time ever, like we've said, oh man, he's lucky. He's playing with a great defense. He's playing with, a great running game, all these type things, right? You're saying, Sean Payton's controlling the game for him. In that game, Cleveland's scoring at will. He has to rise up. And what does he do? He starts being aggressive, slinging the ball around, making huge plays, and sometimes too aggressive. But I think I like that because I think I'd rather see him be too aggressive and make some mistakes, because I think of what has Josh Allen been criticized his whole career of up until really this last year. Man, he's too aggressive. Even though he makes all these plays, he's not one of the best because he's too aggressive. I think that you have a better place to learn at the position, to pull the trigger, trust your eyes, and then learn afterwards, all right, this is why I don't do it, rather than sitting back there and holding on to everything and playing the position scared. I like seeing his aggressiveness at the position.
Yeah, and it's just so funny thinking back to that game. We were almost scratching our heads. Like, Sean Payton is in love with Bo Nix, and that was probably, they win the game, but it's probably one of his worst games of the year, just in terms of really struggling, not seeing the field, missing an open receivers. And since then, he's been on an absolute tear. And I can't wait to see the progress that he's made. But I'm just telling you, Whit, this is a must win for the Broncos, because if they lose to the Chargers, okay, they play the Bengals next week. And if the Bengals win out, the Broncos lose to the Chargers, they lose to the Bengals, and then in week 18, the Broncos are playing the Chiefs, who at this point, Mahomes hurt his ankle. We're not sure where he's at. If they lose one of the next 2 weeks, then all of a sudden, they have to play in that game because they're playing to secure home field advantage. They're playing for that first round bye. It's not unlikely if the Chargers beat the Broncos in this game, they lose to the Bengals and they lose to the Chiefs. And the Bengals win out, and Joe Burrow somehow, some way sneaks the Bengals into the playoffs.